Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another great Lunch and Learn here with the Purchasing Division. I'm Alexa Francis House, and today we will be learning a lot about vendor ScaleWith. The first person I want to introduce you to that will be speaking on behalf of ScaleWith is Account Executive Andy Millay. Andy, if you want to go ahead and come on camera so everyone can meet you.
All right. Are we good?
There he is.
All right.
Andy is the account executive for the public sector for ScaleWith and has a broad range of sales and operations management experience within the public sector marketplace. Currently, he's a senior consultant for several federal agencies and has previously held senior positions at Coupa, IBM, and Workday. So Andy, I know you're going to introduce the rest of your team here. If they want to go ahead and come on camera now as well. And if you could introduce them, and then after that, Andy and the rest of the team will be explaining to you guys about ScaleWith. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in the chat. And at key points in today's presentation, we'll go ahead and check in and respond to those. All right, without further ado, Andy.
All right, thank you, Alexa. We're going to hold off on the introductions. We'll do them as we go, so we'll hold off on that. But first, I'd like to thank all the attendees on today's Lunch and Learn session. We at ScaleWith really, truly appreciate your time and for being with us here today. I'd also like to thank Bob Gleason for helping arrange today's session. I had the pleasure of meeting Bob several years ago, I should say many years ago, and I learned quickly that he was an innovative and transformational procurement executive. And Bob, when I approached Bob about ScaleWith, he thought the Lunch and Learn session was a great way to get our message out to the folks at the county. And let me tell you, Broward County is very, very, very fortunate to have Bob on your team. So thanks, Bob, for helping set this up and for getting us here at all today. So today you're going to hear from the team at ScaleWith, which is an innovative, efficient, and powerful solution that positively impacts the lives of many through social impact funding. I could go on, but we're going to let others on the team talk about that. So with that, I'd like to introduce Paul Palazzotto, who's the founder of ScaleWith. And with that, Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you everyone for joining the Lunch and Learn today. We're excited to share the origins of ScaleWith and how our solutions can make public sector procurement more efficient and bring critical funding to improving the environment, health, and education there in Broward County. I'm the founder of ScaleWith, and I'm 35 years a serial social entrepreneur. So I've spent my entire career in the space of social impact, looking for ways to bring critical new funding to communities and serving the underserved. So this business model started many, many years ago, and the origins of ScaleWith were actually as a nonprofit. And it got started because I was interested in bringing funding to gap fund projects in my community in Southern California around the environment, health, and education. And what I found as a nonprofit, even though our origins were a nonprofit, was that we were taking grants from other nonprofits. It was a zero-sum game. And so we weren't doing anything additive. And that was the birth of an idea. The idea was to embed social impact funding in business to business and business to government transactions, selling and procurement, to bring new funding to projects and communities without cannibalizing existing corporate philanthropy. And so this got started many, many, many years ago. And in fact, some of those origins are right there in South Florida. So what we would do is embed impact into public sector procurement, where public sector procurement organizations would look for best pricing and best terms on the products and services they're looking to secure, and asking vendors to include social impact in those RFP responses to fund projects that are critical to their community. So for example, in Miami, we funded solar panels on Miami City Hall. We funded green schools initiatives. We funded projects in South Florida by embedding impact into B2B and B2G transactions. And so through the success that we had in South Florida by bringing critical new funding to these communities, we won the 2009 Award of Excellence from U.S. Conference of Mayors for being the #1 public-private partnership in the nation. The CBS Corporation grew very interested in purchasing our company. They purchased us in 2010. We went on to use this business model that I'm describing to fund more than $100 million of new funding for community projects, all while procurement organizations were not paying more for products and services, and we positively impacted the lives of more than 60 million people. And as a result of the remerger of Viacom and CBS, we actually purchased our company back, spun it out, and became independent. And now we're using software, SaaS software, and AI to help public sector procurement organizations secure best pricing and best terms for the products and services that they're procuring and sourcing, as well as bringing critical new funding to improving the environment, health, and education in communities throughout the country. I'm going to turn it over to Todd Ellsworth, who's going to share some of our work with local governments in Ohio and California, but we're very excited to be back in South Florida and looking for ways to create efficiency around procurement and critical new funding for community projects. So why don't I turn it over to you, Todd Ellsworth, to describe some of the work that we're doing in Ohio and California and other parts of the country.
Sure. And you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you, Todd. Paul just wanted to mention at some point your video went away, but if you want to pop it back on or if you need to, just wanted to kind of let you know that. But go
Okay.
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know at what point you lost the video, but Todd Ellsworth. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you to everybody for attending this Lunch and Learn. We've been really excited about being able to meet you all and present. I am the Chief Business Development Officer and heading up our public sector initiatives here at ScaleWith. We actually started our public sector work over in the UK. Our first client over there was the Mayor's Office of Policing, otherwise known as Scotland Yard. They have a law over there called the Social Value Act that I won't get into a lot of the details, but it really is compulsory in terms of including social impact as part of public sector contracting. We were introduced to the two-term former governor of the state of Ohio, John Kasich, and we're encouraged by his optimism of applying this platform and program that we have in the United States. And so we launched it initially in the state of Ohio. And we are working with a number of counties and cities there, including we're about to launch next month with the city of Cincinnati. And then we're also extremely excited to be starting some very important work with the state of California and their procurement department. We had a meeting last week in Sacramento. Paul goes back 25 years with the governor of the state of California in applying our business model and being able to show the type of social impact funding that's created a lot of resources for people in need. So we're thrilled to be able to bring this back to Florida. As Paul said, we've had some real success there in the past and would love to bring it to Broward County. So with that, I believe I'm going to introduce Nikki Neff, who is our Chief Social Impact Officer.
Hello, everyone. I'm just turning on my camera. So nice to meet everyone. Today, I'm Chief Social Impact Officer at ScaleWith. I have the pleasure of leading our network of over 140 social impact organizations across hundreds of programs, alongside partnering with both customer success and product. So that means really making sure that our social impact organizations, experiences, and reporting are brought to life in our software, and make sure that our customers are able to realize the success through the impact that they contribute to local organizations.
Nikki, just so you know, your camera's not showing.
I am so sorry. It's what's strange is I can see myself, so my camera light is on, so I'm not sure. I can turn it off again, but I on my end I can see my camera.
Try turning it off and turning it back on. If not, just go ahead and proceed. We can all hear you.
Can you see me now?
No.
Hello? I don't like staring at myself, which is what I'm doing right now. But I'll try. So I'm sorry. I'm trying my best.
No worries.
But, great. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we can continue with the presentation. I know we have some great slides and getting into some great examples with what a use case in the state of California looks like, and really how we can bring this to Broward County. My background's in public policy and urban planning. So I would say our public sector offering is something I'm deeply passionate about. I'm also joined by my colleague, Nicholas, who just recently joined us from the public sector as well. So I'll give him a brief chance to introduce himself around his work in nationally across the public sector. But we really look at what a municipality, what a local government is focused on in terms of their community development and community impact, and think through what sort of gap funding opportunities there are through procurement and supply chain activity. I think we can go to the next slide. So across these cause areas and issues that matter to Broward County, we have the opportunity to engage your supply chain by contributing to impact objectives that you all care about, and that through gap funding, you're able to add more funding to these nonprofit and community-based organizations that are of most importance. Scott, do you want to add in here some focus on the product side?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Scott Jorgensen. I will try to flip on my camera briefly for you so you can see me. Looks like it's working. So as Nikki mentioned, we have a software system that you would use in your procurement activities. The application is called ScaleWith. You can kind of see it on the left. And it brings you together with your suppliers in a new way. When you invite them to bid and have their RFP responses and put their proposals together, you also are able to invite them to contribute to fund the gaps for your social impact goals. And why would a supplier do that? When a supplier is providing goods and services to your community and also funding social impact gaps, it is so much clearer to that community why that supplier is incredibly valuable. So for them, it's incredibly effective marketing, essentially, to meet the needs of communities in which their employees live and who they serve. So it's a killer ROI for your suppliers. It's very streamlined and easy for you in procurement. Nikki's going to show you a little bit of how that actually unfolds. But our software platform gathers data about your suppliers and informs you what they look like, automates how you actually invite them into that process, provides reporting and analytics about how that's going and the total impact that you're generating for your community through your supplier activities. And we automate all the funding and the reporting. And we actually provide content to Broward County to communicate with your constituents about the impact that you're delivering with your suppliers. And your suppliers get the same, so they can talk to their employees about the good work they're doing in communities as they do that profitable business with the county. So I'll let Nikki keep going here, but just to touch on the product and the technology that all this rides on top of.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Can people see me now? I'm trying my camera once again, so hopefully you can see me this time, but perhaps not.
No, but we can still hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to keep turning it off then. Thank you. So we really start with the buyer and supplier focused on alignment. We talk about 4 different areas that buyers and suppliers come together. The first is around analytics, then alignment, action, and then assurance. So when we first look at how you can analyze your supply base, we take into consideration deep insights into what your suppliers are already contributing to in terms of social impact and how that aligns to you, Broward County, and your focus areas as a county in terms of social impact. So going back to your amazing leadership across diverse organizations, where does your supplier base align with those same cause areas? And then we power those analytics to drive alignment. So we have a recommendation algorithm that recommends social impact organizations and programs that are best aligned to both your and your supplier base. And that can be within our existing network of organizations, but we also have the opportunity to onboard local community-based organizations that are best suited for Broward County's needs and gap funding. So then from analytics and alignment, we go into action. I think we can skip ahead a few slides from here, perhaps. Yeah. I think we can go back to alignment just for one more second. So once this alignment happens, we're able to then provide the suppliers opportunities to contribute to impact through your purchasing practices and decisions. So that can come through traditional RFP cycles alongside other types of supplier campaigns focused on specific cause areas or kind of impact opportunities as they come up. And then we deliver that funding. So that's really gets to our action associated with the ScaleWith, buy with journey. So action with measurable impact, that means that suppliers have an opportunity to contribute at the program level. ScaleWith handles all of the grant administration and measurement processes so that your funding contributions and partnership with the suppliers is really kind of hands-off experience for you in which you really just get to realize the results and communicate those results to your stakeholders. So we've taken this example, Grid Alternatives, which is an organization that works nationally, but also specifically in California. So when we recently spoke with California, we were talking about how one of California's largest goals is around both economic and climate resilience and programs that focus on both. Grid Alternatives is one of those programs that does focus on both through both job training and solar panel installations. And we know that the state of California delivers grant funding to a variety of municipalities and local organizations. And that's earmarked across specific funds. When Grid Alternatives comes in with that grant funding to deliver solar panels on affordable housing, often these homes are in disarray and they can't actually install the solar panels. So there's a critical gap funding that's needed to actually rehab these homes so that they can actually install these solar panels. So I think this is a great example of an opportunity in which there's perhaps earmarked budget, earmarked funding to deliver to communities in need. However, there's an additional need on top of that grant funding that needs to be closed in order for the project to be successfully executed. Happy to answer any questions as they come up here. So this really de-risks the project and you're able to measure the impact in real time that your suppliers are contributing to. And the next slide. And then you're able to report with confidence. So we have a robust impact measurement framework that values the impact delivered to these social impact organizations so that you can contribute to impact and report on that impact with transparency and confidence, using really best-in-class impact evaluation standards. And you're really able to advance Broward County's goals through procurement. So we know that you have, goals around innovation and equity in your procurement processes, and this is an opportunity to deliver against those county procurement goals, while contributing to critical gap funding and impact. And Scott, perhaps this is a good chance for you to just kind of tell the story across from one, embedding social impact, to rinse and repeat, which is really what our customer journey is.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we're essentially illustrating the steps that you would go through on an ongoing basis in your procurement activities if you're engaging in what Nikki just described. So, step one, right? Embed social impact into your supplier interactions. So, right, so using our data, understand those suppliers differently. Potentially, it helps you invite a broader set of suppliers, maybe people you wouldn't have included otherwise. It also helps you communicate to them how to be best aligned with the county and deepen those important supplier relationships where that might be important to you. And then I was mentioning earlier, sending out your bids and informing your suppliers of what the related social impact goals are. And then, of course, your suppliers are really taking action in step three. They're the ones who are saying, okay, I see which programs are important to the county in this case. I'm going to put my bid together. That kind of all goes the way that it normally does. And you're going to want to follow all your ethical procurement practices there to keep it all buttoned up. But should they be the winning bidder, at the end, they know what's going on. And as they win, they are, of course, encouraged to make their contribution. And so they do that through the ScaleWith platform. And as I was mentioning before, and as Nikki highlighted, then you have a chance to tell the story, right? You've done some profitable business together with the county, and you've got this content we'll provide to get the word out about how maybe you've helped a local organization, and maybe you've met some of that gap funding. And of course, as the impact actually occurs, we provide that reporting so everyone can meet their compliance. A lot of corporations are also interested in this reporting because they've got regulations about how they need to be most responsible as corporations. And they want to be transparent with people in their reporting. So all of our reporting meets those standardized guidelines for all their compliance. Of course, you benefit from that as well in terms of the clarity and the transparency. And then you just do that over and over and over again, targeting repeatedly where your strategic gaps are. And that's something we would work with you together on to figure out how to optimize those programs and plans and strategies. So. This is just highlighting how we tell the story. Paul, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I thought I would jump in here. Scott, you were focusing on the suppliers getting the reporting, the suppliers getting the content. So the reason why the county can continue to secure best pricing and best terms and have the supplier base fund critical community projects is because the suppliers win too. The suppliers then essentially take that impact they're funding and report that against their own CSR, sustainability, and ESG commitments. They share that reporting with investors. They share the content with employees and investors. And so the suppliers are really winning here as well. And so what we're really doing is creating a partnership between the county and the supplier base to create critical new funding for necessary projects where both the county and the supplier base win. So we're happy to answer any questions. We want to make sure this makes sense, but we want to also be really clear that the normal process of the county securing best pricing and best terms for the products and services you procure is still in place. and that your supplier base is willing to fund these projects because they win as well. So happy to answer any questions and hope that makes sense.
And Paul, it might be worth mentioning where they typically get these dollars.
No, that's a fair question. So does that mean that the price or the margin is affected for the supplier? No, because the suppliers, the typical company in the Fortune 500 is spending 10 to 30% of its gross revenues on SG&A, sales and sales related expenses. So what's in that bucket? Well, there's certainly comp plans and commission plans, but there's advertising, marketing, PR, corporate communications, events, conferences, white papers, things that are underperforming. So what the suppliers are doing is drawing on those underperforming existing dollars, shifting them into these deals where the county is benefiting. So these are budgets that county procurement is now tapping into on the supplier side that the county would typically not have access to, whether it's advertising and marketing, PR, corporate communications, events, conferences. So these are budgets that the suppliers have in any case. And so what we're doing is we're redeploying or reallocating those dollars that the suppliers are already spending for community projects for which the county benefits. I hope that is clear in terms of where the suppliers are getting this funding.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Did you want to cover the case study next, or should we go to Q&A?
We don't have any questions currently in the chat, so if you guys want to go ahead and go on through to the case study.
Okay. So as Todd talked about, the interesting thing about the process that we're describing here is this is actually compulsory or regulatory in other parts of the world. In the UK, there's something called the Social Value Act. Social Value Act started as a volunteer program in 2012 and has become compulsory since 2020. And in the UK, through the Social Value Act, public sector agencies that are sourcing and procuring using taxpayer dollars are now required to apply as much as 10 to 20% of the award criteria that if they're going to spend £1 with a supplier, what community social impact does it create in that community? And so we went over and tested our platform with Met Police, or in this case, Scotland Yard, showing them that they could leverage their sourcing and procurement activities to secure critical funding for projects that would reduce crime. These were programs where we were helping underserved youth and other programs that reduced crime. And so what we were able to do is roll this out against their supplier base, secure funding. We helped the Met Police comply with the Social Value Act. We helped the suppliers with their CSR, sustainability, and ESG initiatives, and we're able to bring significant critical new funding to these projects in the Greater London area. As Todd Ellsworth described, when we saw our program working effectively in the UK in what is considered a regulatory kind of environment, we thought, well, let's bring the spirit of the Social Value Act to the US. I mean, this is also working in the EU as well. So we're bringing the spirit of the Social Value Act to the US, as Todd described. Have begun some work with two-term governor of Ohio, John Kasich, now working in California, working with some local governments in Ohio, as well as other local governments throughout the country. So essentially, we're bringing the spirit of the Social Value Act to the US, where we don't expect that it'll be regulatory anytime soon. But this is a process that's working very effectively in other parts of the world. And so it just makes perfect sense that if public sector sourcing and procurement organizations are not paying more for products and services, and their supplier base is funding critical community projects for which the suppliers are getting benefit, it just made perfect sense. And so we've brought the spirit of the Social Value Act to the US, and we're excited to see the impact that it's already having. This case study, as you can see, with the Met Police, had us working with impact organizations, local impact organizations, serving the needs of the greater London area. We're going to be providing this deck to everyone, so certainly you can have a chance to dig deeper into this case study. But what we're hoping to do is to bring this type of innovation to Broward County, and to begin to bring critical new funding to priorities of the county and organizations that are already serving the county, and that new funding coming from the business community and not from taxpayers. And so, you know, this is a case study that's that's proof positive that this type of approach to public sector procurement is already working effectively around the world. I shared with you earlier some work that we've done in South Florida, as well as other parts of the country where we've used this model to fund solar panels on libraries and parks and city halls, to refurbish baseball fields, football fields, basketball courts, to fund after-school recreation programs, to feed kids healthier meals in schools, to fund hunger programs around throughout the country, where we fund on a Friday afternoon backpacks full of food for families to take home to feed their families over the weekend and bring those backpacks back the following week. So we've used this business model to bring critical funding to communities and to serve the underserved. And our hope is to expand this into Broward County and have a positive impact there.
Thank
Okay,
you so much,
Paul.
Paul.
I'm sorry, Paul. I do see several questions here in the chat, and Nikki,
Sure.
I did see that your hand was raised, so we can probably just kind of make our way through these questions, if that's okay.
Please, yes.
All
Sure.
right, and you started to touch on one of them, which was, is your product currently being used in any large district within Florida? So it seems like they're asking, can you list which districts that you guys have worked with in the past?
The software part of this program is not working in South Florida at this time. So the work that we did in South Florida was pre the development of this software. It was the same program, same everything, but we were actually doing it in a manual fashion. So we were doing all of what I just described to you: alignment, action, reporting, all of that in a manual way. This is now the software version of that, and there is not a government in Florida using this yet.
Okay, Nikki, I'm seeing here that you're going to kind of tag team with Paul. So I'll just kind of pose the question to both of you guys. Do you have data on the top suppliers or manufacturers that have participated in this initiative?
Yeah.
Yes, we'd be happy to provide a list of our, customers that do use this. In fact, Nikki can go into some detail right now where we are working with Amazon to roll this out to their 88,000 tier 1 suppliers as phase 1 of a project with Amazon, and then ultimately to 1 million of their global suppliers. But I'll let Nikki describe that in more detail, because Nikki is leading that effort with Amazon and also our partner Deloitte. But Nikki, perhaps you can share more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Amazon is just one example of customers that we do deep insights for suppliers on. So we certainly have data on thousands of suppliers, if not millions of suppliers, using our technology, using our AI co-pilot to analyze what suppliers are focused on in terms of social impact, what UN Sustainable Development Goals they're committed to, what nonprofits they're already delivering funding to, their actual ratings in terms of environmental and social impact, and global frameworks that they report to. And as Paul mentioned, in partnership with Deloitte, we're really advancing how we use impact evaluation. So not just evaluating that impact, but being able to put a number or score in terms of what the actual true value and importance of that impact they are contributing to in communities and abroad. So that's certainly something that we deliver across all of our Buy With customers, and we'd be excited to do the same in Broward County. And which is perhaps somewhat related to the following question that I saw, which is what kind of support and training does ScaleWith provide to organizations implementing Buy With? We provide a free blueprinting service to all of our customers that really talks through what the user journey for both you, Broward County, and your suppliers would be. And alongside that, all the data, all of the analytics, all of the alignment needed to make sure that we can execute this successfully, starting with a pilot and then at scale. And that I think goes into your third question, right? Can ScaleWith's tools be customized to align to Broward County's objectives? And I would say that's our tool is designed to do exactly that. That is really, I think, some of the expertise and value we provide, that these aren't just generally cause areas that are aligned to nonprofits that are generally aligned to it. It's really using the power of technology and deep analytics to analyze very specifically what is important and valuable to Broward County, how that aligns to Broward County's suppliers, and then the impact that they can contribute to critical gap funding together through their purchasing power and purchasing decisions. I also, in terms of the support and training that we provide, I wanted a brief opportunity to introduce my colleague Nicholas, who certainly would be part of this journey and training and implementation with you. So Nicholas, if you're here, if you could maybe just say hello and speak briefly about your impact and public sector experience.
Thanks, Nikki. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you guys can see me. I tried to turn on my camera. But my name is Nicholas Boswell. I'll be working as the Social Impact Partnerships Manager here at ScaleWith. And my background is in business development, social impact, but most recently, I worked as a program director for the National League of Cities, where we worked with a myriad of different corporations to expand impact across our myriad of membership base with the National League of Cities. So I'm excited to work with Broward County on this initiative too as well. So I'll, more than likely be the person that you'll be working with on a regular basis as well. So happy to talk more about my experience and get a little bit deeper into that at the next phase. But great to meet everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Paul, there's another question regarding the private sector.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find this in the chat. Okay. Right. Yes.
Do you want to read it? Why don't you read it first?
Yeah. No, it says, although tailored for the public. Yes, I appreciate the question. As we were describing, Amazon is a private sector client, and among others. And so we do quite a lot of work in B2B suppliers and procurement as well. So these are business sellers selling to business buyers. So exactly what we've described for you, we do in the private sector. Nikki was talking about a social impact supplier score. So for example, we can take our AI and our tool and run it against your entire supplier base, and we can tell you everything that supplier base is doing in the area of CSR, sustainability, philanthropy, every award they've won, every UN SDG they're committed to, and so on. So you can see where Broward County and your supplier base are aligned. So that's alignment, then there's action, then there's reporting. So we do all of what we've described to you in the private sector. And what's interesting now in coming out of Europe, we have big global private sector clients that are dealing with new regulatory frameworks. They're particularly coming out of Europe, something called ESRS and CSRD, where these private sector organizations are now having to do what they call mandatory corporate reporting. So as they report their financial disclosures, their financial performance, they're now also having to report their sustainability and CSR, social impact performance. And that is also subject to audit. So not only are their financial disclosures subject to audit, their social impact disclosures are also subject to audit. That's why this is such a big opportunity for the likes of Accenture and Deloitte and KPMG and PwC because of that audit practice. Deloitte happens to be a very large partner of ours, and they're also working with us on the Amazon front. I hope that answers that question, but I'm happy to answer any other questions as well. But there's a big private sector aspect to our business.
Just wanted to chime in here. We are a little bit over time, so if you guys have to drop off, not to worry. Today's session is being recorded for future viewing. So if you do have to hop off, it's fine. We will share with all of the attendees a link to today's recording. But if you, for those of you who still have any additional questions, feel free to type those in the chat and we'll kind of work our way through those until we get to the end, okay? So the next question I'm seeing here is, you mentioned some success stories working in the UK. However, what challenges did ScaleWith encounter during the transition to the US market, and how were they addressed?
Yeah.
And Nikki says she's happy to take this one.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this, and Paul, please feel free to add on. I think where we have seen I challenge opportunity with our buy with customers on the US side is really around exactly what place in the user journey this makes sense. So in your purchasing decisions and operations, where exactly is the right moment to engage your suppliers and contribute that impact? And I think that's where the blueprinting services and pilot really sets us up for success, because we are able to really drill down and be specific to you and your use case, and where it makes sense for you and your team to engage with your suppliers and contribute to that impact. So I think it's really, across all of our customers, it's really about implementing it to their specific use case, their specific cause areas, and their specific suppliers.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the blueprinting and work. And as Nikki described, it comes at no cost. And what we do has no cost to the public sector side. Back to the public sector, private sector, we do charge our private sector clients on the procurement side a subscription fee, whereas on the public sector side, all of that blueprinting, all of that work is at no cost. The suppliers are effectively paying for that. I would say the only other thing, Alexa, in terms of the difference between the UK and the US is that it's regulatory. In the UK, the public sector procurement organizations have to do this because it's mandatory, it's compulsory. And we're just bringing the spirit of it here to the US. But what we found is that there's really no differences other than the fact that it's regulatory there and not yet here. But it works exactly the same here, but just not being mandated by regulation.
Okay, and the next question is, do you foresee any problems with the AI capabilities based on the regulatory concerns regarding the proper use of AI in the US?
I'm going to direct this question to Scott Jorgensen, our Chief Product Officer. Scott, do you want to answer this one?
Well, it's certainly something we take incredibly seriously. The AI is used to build data profiles, and we certainly look for the accuracy of the data there. And also folks like to use the word AI extremely broadly. We're really using machine learning algorithms there. So It's not as much of what you hear about like this hottest, newest stuff, which is a little more unpredictable, right? So we're using pretty tried and true AI algorithms and machine learning systems to build those data profiles. To make the recommendation system, that's the same kind of technology we've all been using from folks like Yahoo and Google for decades. There's nothing new and crazy there. It's an incredibly serious topic, and so I appreciate the question. But because we're running, commercial operations, we're not having the AI do anything risky. There's a whole tool we have that is a generative AI tool. We didn't really discuss it today. It's something that's exciting, new, and interesting, and we could share it with you, but it's really something we use more in the private sector for marketing and sales organizations. For what you're seeing here, these are practices that software folks have been doing for a very long time. So I would leave it.
Nikki talked about the blueprinting being part of, at what part of the user journey do you integrate this type of process? The other thing that we want to point out is that we can integrate into any source and procurement system, source to pay system, whether that's SAP Ariba or Coupa or OpenGov or you name it. Our platform can integrate right into the workflows of whatever platform you're currently using.
Okay, so that looks like all of the questions here in the chat. Should you guys have any additional questions for ScaleWith, Todd's contact information is listed there on the screen for you. Todd.Ellsworth@scalewith.com. You can feel free to send your emails his way, and they will get back to you directly. Thank you so much to ScaleWith, to your entire team, Paul, for giving such an interesting presentation about who you are, what we do, what you do, rather. And as I said before, today's session was recorded for future viewing. So once we are done here, we will go ahead and send out the information to you guys with a link to the presentation. Thank you for attending another great Lunch and Learn. It was a pleasure. And you guys enjoy the rest of your lunch.
You do the same. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.